Eamon Khan here for Seconds Out. Pleasure to be in the company of former world title challenger John Ryder. John, good to see you training now in that capacity from boxing. Never can quite leave boxing, many fighters. But what was the reason as to why you wanted to stick around and try your hand at the training side of things?
I know it can be hard to transition to anything after boxing. So for me to actually fall into a job in the sim in the team with in the gym with Tony, sorry, was it's not that I thought I'd go straight in Tony's madness. And I think a few 3 or 4 weeks after I retired, he said, "Can you go in the gym and look after Maisie and Jimmy for me on Friday? Got to go somewhere." So I think that was the method behind his madness to get me in the gym and to give me a buzz. And listen, it was good. I walked in, Maisie and Jimmy took the piss out of me, and it was like being home again, in a new capacity. But I'll always be very grateful to them too for that experience and easing me back in.
How long had that side of things played on your mind during your career whilst you were active? Had you thought about that training side of things whilst you were still trading leather?
Yeah, I thought it'd be like a natural progression. I thought I'd have a bit more time out of boxing, but it just fell nicely. I mean, I was no good to now sit around the house doing nothing. So I think it was nice to get in the gym, help Tony, and it's always a busy time for the gym. So to ease a bit of his burden and stress, just take a few bit off his hands and ease the load for him as well.
How does it, what would you describe your training ethos as? What do you want from each fighter when you have them in front of you? What are you looking out from each session, or in a short term and in the long term, what do you look from them?
Just nothing but 100%. And listen, that don't mean you got to balls to the wall every day. It's like we train smart as well. But just come in, be willing to learn, be coachable, and just give it 100%.
What would you do? What would you describe your training style as in terms of getting out of the fighters and their styles? Is it similar to how you were taught with Tony? Did you have your own ideas that you've been able to implement as well?
Yeah, I mean Tony's very good and let me have my own input, but I think that at the end of the day, it's Tony's name above the gym.
Mm.
Um, he's made a winning formula as such for such a long period of time, and I'm going to follow his lead. I think it works, and the crop of fighters that are there now, it works well for them. So listen, as long as we're succeeding and doing well, Tony's very good in ways which he moves with the times. He's never been a dinosaur. He's always been like revolutionary of like let's get on the S and C's. He's always loved lifting weights himself, and he's not going to be spoken to doing anything different. And he's willing to listen to any suggestions about easing fighters' training loads, whether it be to I don't know take a session off the feet in the week and do it on a bike. He's very open to things like that, the assault bike and whatnot. So he's a pleasure to work for and work with.
I was watching and reading your interview with Tristix on Boxing Scene, and some of the comments there obviously wished you well. And they also said they mentioned John Ryder, tough guy. John Ryder, tough guy. Tough guy, bounce back ability, and persistence were things that were highlights of your career. Do you think those things are teachable? Do you think those things are things you can pass down to your fighters?
Listen, you've either got heart or you haven't.
Mm.
You can't teach someone heart. But what I can do is call on my experience to tell my fighters moving forward, look, you do it now, don't regret it tomorrow. Um, I've been there, I've done it, I've been to the trenches, do you know what I mean? I've lost on points, I've been knocked out. So I've seen every eventuality. Don't want to be hard on yourself. Like, don't let success go to your head. Also, don't let failure go to your heart. Just we know the sport can be cruel at times. It's all about remaining healthy and happy, and your health is your wealth at the end of the day. So, I just want to make fighters that are happy, keep them healthy, and just keep on winning.
Yeah, just honing in on some of the fighters that you're working with. First of all, Ramla Ali, she was out recently over stateside. A lot of talk about that fight. She got the victory, but what do you feel was there to improve on going into her next fight?
Activity. I mean, she'd been out of the ring for I think 14 months by the time she ended up boxing, and Listen, Ramla's very meticulous. She's a perfectionist. But I think the inactivity sorry played its part, and she's cracking on a bit now. She needs to just get a good run of form behind her. But listen, she's a perfectionist, and no one will be harder on Ramla than Ramla will be on herself for that fight. I thought she won it on the cleaner work. Listen, if you're looking at an opponent for not so much a comeback fight, but a fight after a 40-month layoff, Lila Furtado is not the person. Just put to her, and it was I did vocalize it at the start that this wasn't an ideal opponent for the laugh she's had, but Ramla assured me it'd be all right, and it was.
George Lillard out against Kieran Conway as well on the 25th of October. George has been going on nicely, but that next level, the next push comes against Kieran Conway. He's an experienced operator at this level and above. What do you think is the key for him to get the victory over Kieran?
I think George just needs to be smart. I think Kieran's been around the block a few times. He's been a nearly man for a while, and listen, he's had his success, and he's got his British title that he's so long craved. So fair play to him. Hats off to him. There's no ill feeling from our gym towards Kieran. He's been down sparring plenty of time over the years. He also fought Ted Cheeseman. So we've been on a lot of shows with him. We get on well with him and his dad. There's no real feeling there, but it's boxing, and you have to put friendship and being a nice guy to a side and put your best foot forward on fight night, and listen with the belief that George can go all the way and be victorious there and go on to bigger and better things.
And the big one coming up later on in the year, Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn too. What's the difference? What's the change in Conor Benn that's going to see him to victory the second time around, given the way that the judges saw the fight was conclusive across all three scorecards?
I think Conor knows now that he was just neglected his boxing. He was trying to wing him in from his heels, his hips, and everywhere. I think if Conor gets behind the jab and boxes like he can, then he makes it an easy night for himself. That fight took a lot out of both fighters, but I know it took a hell of a lot out of Chris Eubank Jr. So that's there to be seen what's left in him. But I believe that we'll be in for a treat, and you'll see Conor win the fight.
How do you stop or curtail or put an emotional fighter or a fighter who fights off emotion sometimes onto the path of removing that emotion from the fight, especially when they're in against someone who can kind of play on that side throughout the week?
Listen, it is tough, and it's easy for me to say it because I've not had that kind of attachment to someone in boxing, and there's not been that much needle where our fathers fought each other's fathers, you know what I mean? So easy for me to say from an outside looking in, but I know what Nigel would like him to do, and I know what Conor would like to do, and that's get to his boxing and beat him convincingly that way. I believe Conor can do that. I believe Tony will implement that in his camp, and you'll see a completely different version of events this time.
The third round I remember specifically, Eubank Jr. was buzzed by a shot, but Conor didn't seem to be able to capitalize upon that. Have you seen that kind of, not quite weakness, but that gap in the armor where Conor can really capitalize upon? If there's an opportunity where Eubank Jr. is buzzed again, he can then find a way to really kind of push the momentum.
Yeah, I think it's hard. I mean, there's a lot of excitement in that fight. And listen, there's a couple of times where it nearly reached boiling point. But I think Conor will be smarter for it. He'll know now that if he gets him hurt, he's got to keep him hurt rather than going for the kill. I mean, listen, it doesn't matter if you don't knock him out instantly, but if you keep him hurt, you can do it a minute, 2 minutes later. And listen, even if you hurt him at the end of the round, he's still going to have that minute break and come out, and he's still going to be back to what he was. So just about keeping him hurt, picking his time and picking his moment to land that blow.
There is I don't know how to say it, report or potentially rumor, you might say, as to a new entrant at the gym in the form of Daniel Dubois with Tony Sims. John, if that's the case, can you confirm that? If you can't confirm that, what would Tony Sims bring potentially to Daniel Dubois if he was to join?
Listen, I think it would be a good move for Daniel. Tony obviously had a good run with AJ and Johnny Fisher there now. So I think that there is a lot that Tony could offer to Daniel. Listen, he's been with a lot of great trainers already. Shane, Don Charles. But it's where he feels comfortable. And listen, if he comes to Tony and feels comfortable and Tony can get the best out of him, he's still a relatively young man for a heavyweight, so there's still chapters to be written.
Could you just break that down a little bit more in terms of what Tony could do with Daniel? When I spoke to Johnny Fisher about him joining, he felt specifically that he really looked at Conor Benn and his mechanics of throwing punches and looking for knockout shots. And obviously that's very much imperative within the heavyweight division. Is it those sort of things that you'd look at potentially with Daniel that could improve him and take him to the next level?
Yeah, I think it's not about being a crash bang wallop fighter running in there throwing shots. It's about setting up shots, setting up feints, drawing things out of people, letting them miss, making them miss and making them pay. And I think Tony can do that. He's very good defensively. And I think Tony studies fights from the 50s through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And listen, there's not a generation of fighters what Tony's not watched. He's studied it all from the early 1900s. So he sees things that he likes, and listen, he drills it so it becomes second nature to these fighters.